Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Coloring Outside the Box. And today I had one of those perfect Mercury retrograde stories, experiences, which is now going to turn into a story. So, yeah, I thought I'd figure out how to use the microphone that I bought several months ago. And I thought, this is perfect. Mercury's retrograde. I can go back and maybe I can figure it out. Actually, my son is the one I thought had figured it out. And so away I went, and everything seemed to be fine. And of course, I get to the end, and you can't hear anything. So, if that's not a perfect Mercury retrograde story, I don't know what is, because it's a microphone, which is, of course, for your voice, which is very much connected to Mercury. I wanted to talk and share some thoughts and ideas. Again, more Mercury. So, I have now managed to regain my equilibrium just barely, because patience has never been my middle name. However, I have now moved through this space of being more than annoyed to sigh. It's really actually quite funny. So, which is kind of a perfect segue to talking about, the energies for the next couple of days. And, really the opportunity that it presents us with. Because every time Mercury goes retrograde, we're called upon to pause and go within in some way, shape, or form. Now, Mercury has gone retrograde in the intense and passionate and powerful sign of Scorpio. So we're being asked to go inside and to recalibrate and rethink and revisit our thoughts, our plans, and our ideas. And not necessarily for the purpose of discounting them, but more to dig deeper, to find things that are still part of the original thought processes. Now, that sounds kind of complex, and I don't mean it to be. Just going to let that sit for a second while my brain also tries to recalibrate. And, this is going to be a time when we're going to have a lot of aha moments. And they're going to sort of sit around in the back of our head and push themselves forward. And part of the reason for that, of course, is that we're just a day or so away, a couple of days away from the new moon. So we're now in the balsamic phase. And what is the balsamic phase of the moon? The balsamic phase of the moon allows us as an opportunity to really just let go. And doesn't mean so we can be empty. It means so that whatever we've been busy thinking about or feeling or processing or living or all of those things, let it all go so that we can find in other parts of our consciousness things that will guide us forward. And sometimes they're just an inkling, just a tiny little sense that something else is coming. There's no form to it, certainly no function other than making us aware. So Mercury in Scorpio wants to dig deep. My only caution would be don't get obsessed by any particular thing. This is not about trying to figure out what it is you did wrong. It's about digging deeper into your consciousness so you can find that well of emotional strength. Because Scorpio has deep, deep resources. And in everybody's birth chart, Scorpio sits somewhere. So follow those inklings and celebrate them. Because that's important. These days, if we really have to find those things in everyday life that lift our spirits. And also with Mercury in Scorpio retrograde, we can find things within ourselves that we have buried that bring us hope, that bring us a sense of purpose, because Scorpio always asks why. Because because that energy is representative of a knowing that things are never uh, without a deeper meaning or a deeper purpose. And this is especially important as we face once again the awareness that life is not the same as it used to be. And Mercury and Scorpio gives us an opportunity, especially as we approach this new moon, to release, any hope or desire or fantasy that things will go back to the way that they were. Because what does that mean? I mean, that's a different thing for everybody. And I think that's what's interesting, is to recognize, can we share what our reality looks like? Or are we going to go around and assume that everybody's reality is the same during this period of time? It really is about knowing the difference between liking things and accepting things. Because acceptance allows us to find the opportunities that exist in the experiences that we're having. And I'm not talking about airy fairy, skip to my darling, everything's great kind of thing, but the deeper, the stuff that really, that energizes us, that supports us, that sustains us and carries us forward. It's something deep within. The human spirit is multifaceted, and we have so much opportunity right now to find that within us. If we accept that things are the way they are, that we stop trying to figure out how to change our outer reality and recognize that the most important thing is our inner reality, that we can take charge of. Now, I didn't say that was easy. I'm not a person who believes in telling people that, that there are, there's a rainbow over there when there isn't. But what I do believe in, and what I do know, is that within each and every one of us, it is a capacity to take our humanness, broaden it, become more aware, and strengthen ourselves. Because in the face of all of the things that are going on outside us, that is the only thing we can take charge of. And if we're stuck in whether we like this or not, it makes it so much harder for us. I'm not saying don't acknowledge that you don't like it. What I'm saying is don't spend your entire vacation there. We all have forebears, ancestors who have dealt with things as challenging and as difficult, and somehow they manage to not just survive, but find ways to thrive. And we can do the same thing. And it doesn't have to be a really complicated process either. It's okay for you to feel fear in 1 minute and to find something to dream about in the next. To be scared in 1 minute and the next minute find a way to laugh. That is what it is to be human. To be despondent and depressed in 1 minute and feel a glimmer of hope in the next. And for all of that to be okay. No matter where you're at and what you're feeling, it's okay. Because if you ignore what it is you feel, no matter what that is, whether it's fear or anything else, it's going to be really difficult. You're just making more challenges for yourself. And we humans are rather good at that. So this retrograde Mercury and this new moon, as we move into the sun moving into Scorpio next week on October the 22nd, and stay tuned, I'll be doing my Scorpio Star Trek forecast. I had to stop and think about that for a second, find the words in my brain. Uh, I'll be doing that next week, most likely on Wednesday. And maybe by then, Mercury in Scorpio will be retrograde, will be my friend. Uh, it's funny because I'm always saying, we should not demonize anything. And it's interesting because we just a little bit of astronomy here is that when a planet is retrograde, it is actually closest to the Earth and brightest. And so, it's kind of like the signal light in your car. It's telling us there's something that needs to be done. And you know what? We each get to decide what that is. So it's interesting as I uh, wend my way through uh, not even a rebroadcast because, typical, I've said something not completely different, but a lot different than what I said in the first version of this podcast. Maybe that's what I need to do every week. Just, record something that you can't hear and then follow it up with something else. Anyway, I'm teasing myself because I don't want to do that. So there is one thing that I did include in the previous attempt that I'd like to share with you because it really speaks to what I've been talking about. So last week, I was very blessed to be able to go to Vancouver for a couple of days. And one of the most powerful moments of that trip was a visit to the Vancouver Art Gallery. And I was so excited to see that they had an exhibit of Emily Carr paintings. And I've always loved Emily Carr painting, her artwork, but I have never actually seen it in person. And I got off the elevator, walked around the corner, and when I came face to face with the first painting, I started to cry. I had a completely visceral reaction to it. It spoke to something deep within. Now, Emily Carr was a West Coast artist. Can't remember exactly what her date of birth is, and all I know is, most of her most important work was painted in the, I want to say 30s, 40s, and 50s, but I could be wrong about that. Please don't quote me, because I was much more interested in the actual experience of being in the presence of her creativity, of her capacity to communicate the beauty of nature. So I invite each and every one of you to see what it is you're drawn to that will connect you to something within you. It doesn't have to be a mental process. It has to be an aha process, which is very much possible during this Mercury retrograde period. Find what speaks to you physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Because it's in those moments that we find our essence. And that could be baking bread. It could be, well, it's not time to grow flowers now. I'm hanging on like for dear life to the few blossoms I have left, even though I'm pretty sure most of my neighbors have already dug up their gardens. Anyway, I guess I don't like to see things die. And I will admit, I sometimes have problems with the cycle of nature. Anyways, so I know that within each and every one of us, it is that deep well of not even essence. I don't know what else to call it. It's intangible. It's like looking at that painting and feeling something so powerful and yet not being able to put it into words. So whatever in your life speaks to you on that, in that way, please make time for it. I'm not saying that it's not okay to feel fear, that it's not okay to feel all of the things that you feel. However, we do have choices. And even if that means that we are blessed in many respects to have things in our daily environment that support us and sustain us. Including ourselves, which was kind of awkward, but we sometimes forget we can sustain ourselves from within. And I think this period of time offers us an opportunity to reacquaint ourselves with that awareness. Anyways, well, thank you so much for joining me once again. And I am most grateful and feel very blessed to be able to do this, to be able to share my experiences and what I've come to know through the course of my life. It's interesting. I had a discussion recently with one of my children, and we were talking about facts and statistics. And one of the things I said to him is that I could share with you all the facts and statistics of my life, but it wouldn't be the truth of my life. And I know each of us has a truth of our own lives. And I'd like to recommend that you take some time to honor that, whatever the truth of your life is. Because I'm fairly certain that it's worth celebrating and acknowledging all of it, not just the parts that look pretty. Anyway, thanks again. See you next week. Bye.